After the recent Mage update, Intrepid followed up with their dev discussion, which is something they usually do. They asked 2 questions and allowed the community to answer those. That's what we'll be talking about here today. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell because that's the only way to refill my mana bar. The first question was this: would you prefer to have some spells that can be cast back to back without a cooldown, or would you want all of your abilities on a cooldown rotation? Now, to start off, I truly think a big piece of these dev discussions is to start and continue in community engagement. Let's break this down. Now, I do think having some spells without a cooldown does make sense. When I say these abilities don't have a cooldown, I mean that they are cast and can be cast afterwards and again and again. If there's any confusion, I don't think anyone should be able to cast a spell while they're casting a spell, because how would that even work? It'd break the game. I think for the smaller spells like your base freeze, lightning, fireballs, etc., those attacks can be cast back to back without a cooldown. This should go without saying, but since those attacks are already such a low level and usually don't amount to putting up bigger numbers in damage, it doesn't make sense to give them a longer cooldown. It'd be a waste of an ability at that point. We'd literally be waiting to cast this spell to essentially do no damage. This doesn't apply to just the mage either, this applies to every single archetype. The defining factor in this should be how strong the ability is. Having all of your abilities on a cooldown goes back to what I was just saying. It all depends on how strong the ability is. In most games where you have an ultimate move, you have to have some type of time and some sense of working for it. Because if you continue to just proc it over and over, the game would then be broken. I think that depending on what the move does, who the move affects, and the lasting effects on it should determine how long the cooldown is. If it's an attack that does 50 damage to a 1 million health bar raid boss, then it should be instant. If it's a move that makes everyone on the battlefield invincible for the next 3 minutes, the cooldown needs to be adjusted to match that effect. So maybe a 10-minute cooldown, but you get what I'm saying. The next question was, is mana management important to you? Should mana be a contributing factor to a mage's total output over longer encounters? Do you think a mage should be required to stop and rest? Or should a skill mage have the means of sustaining themselves infinitely? I'll answer this in parts. I think for people who have played mage in the past and currently, mana management is a must and it's not even up for debate. This attests to the simple fact that mages don't want to have a useless mana bar. If you can cast all of your spells without your bar being barely affected, then it's just for design at that point. I think people want a bit more of a challenge when playing these characters, so I'd say yes, mana should be a contributing factor to a mage's total output over longer encounters. Do you think mages should stop and rest, or should a skill mage have the means of sustaining themselves infinitely? I think the answer here is a happy medium. A level 5 mage shouldn't be able to go out and cast an army of fireballs without having to rest. If you think of immersion, it can be a tad bit breaking in that sense, because you just learned how to use this move. How would said character already be super proficient in that area? And if they're a low level, they wouldn't have the same control over their mana that a level 32 does. It makes sense for lower levels to rest 1000% after exhausting a huge amount of mana. I think for the higher level mages, they should be required to rest too, but only for what's appropriate for their level. That level 32 who has a frost cannon, supernova, and lightning storm won't be resting nearly as long as the level 5 who only knows how to use fireball. Again, coming from an immersion perspective, this makes sense, but even gameplay wise it works out. This gives the lower level mages something to work towards. When you eventually get to that higher level, you'll be able to do what higher level players can do. I think Intrepid is asking genuine questions here, truly. I think they want to continue to make their player base happy, but at the same time, I do see how this can be worrisome for veteran players who believe they should already have this figured out, especially being so close to Alpha 2. I don't like to make any final calls on things until I see the final result. I'm hoping that this dev discussion was more of a way to engage with the community and to be sure of what the player base wants, while they already know the direction that they want to go in. I also understand that when this game comes out, it could possibly change the genre. That requires a tremendous amount of time. So if they want to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, quintillion, Dinkelberg, whatever they want to do to make sure that the mana for mages is working properly, so be it. You only get one shot. Mind you, they're doing all of this before we even touch the game, which is good. We just have to continue to wait. I think I'm gonna make this a series responding to some of the dev discussions, so if you want to keep up with that, be sure to subscribe. How do you think the mage's mana should work? Please let me know in the comment section below. If you've yet to make an Ashes of Creation account, feel free to use my link in the description. If you want to hop into Discord, feel free to hop in mine. I promise it's super cool and chill. If you want to keep up with me, follow me on Twitter and Twitch where I stream the live monthly updates. Alright? I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.